My name is Tanika Reed, and I am in cohort 6 at Moreland University. I am with my mentor Reese. And we are discussing my video number 4, InTASC standard 6, 7, and 8.
All right, so Miss Reed, as usual, your video was outstanding. And I'm able to say that because Tanika and I have talked together for a while, and I'm always able to come in and mentor her in teaching. So I'm able to see the hour and a half where she teaches math versus you all only get a little snippet. And so when I was in there, I got a chance to see that your students were working on a Kahoot game. Kahoot is outstanding. Children seem to love Kahoot. They love the engagement part of it. They love the focus. They love the learning. It gets them going. It gets them with a think, pair, share, and talking to their partners. It also promotes student teaching as well. So it makes the classroom become a student centered learning environment. And it kind of sort of pulls back a little bit from the teacher, which is great. And so that's where we definitely want to have our students by the end of the school year. And so your students have achieved that goal. um, I love how they are engaged in the classroom and that they stay focused and they ask questions and they talk to their partners, and you really have them thinking about math and just not thinking about math. But when you walk into your classroom, you have this atmosphere of loving math. They have really adjusted to your love for math, and they've taken that upon them and say, hey, I love math too. You know exactly what your students need. And one thing that the video probably doesn't show is that the small groups that you do daily and how you pull your students based upon their levels and where they are, and you begin to grow them more and more. You do review, you do spiraling, you do scaffolding, you literally work with those students. And not just with those students, I love how, once I said before, you have those students who encourage each other, and you have them partner not based upon their level, but based upon their love. And that's what I love to see, because here it is, that child, that student that might not be the brightest, but they have that love for them fractions. They in there rocking and rolling, and they pulling the rest of their students up. So you really see that they love fractions and they understand it. Another thing that I love about it is that even though we're teaching Eureka, and Eureka has its ups and its downs, as we always say with any curriculum. Eureka has that visual sense. And so, since we are teaching elementary students, you definitely want them to have that visual sense. But one thing that I love about you is that you just don't stick to just that Eureka. You get your students advance of how to do these problems in multiple ways. And that prepares them for success in standardized testing. Because in standardized testing, we've never seen a tape diagram. We have not. They don't really focus on tape diagrams like that. But your students are able to either do it the standard algorithm way or another type of way that you have taught them. So whenever they see it in those standardized tests, they're able to say, hey, I know this is a fraction. It doesn't necessarily look like how Eureka or any other math curriculum taught it, but my teacher has exposed me to various different ways of how I could see it. A division sign doesn't always look this way. It could look this way or it could look this way. A multiplication sign doesn't always look this way. It could look this way. It could look this way. So you have exposed them to those standards and those ways of learning, which is going to advance them for college. Because I love the fact that we've got them to this visual sense, but as they progress in high school and college, it's not necessarily going to be that visual foundation that they're going to need. That visual foundation will help and support them, but what you've exposed them to is understanding as you get older, it's going to look like this. When you get to college, you're going to focus on more like this. They're not going to necessarily want those pictorials or visuals, which will help you because now you mastered it that way, and that will help you succeed. But also, that exposure plays a major part in children's success. And in your classroom, you're able to see all of those things in visuals. Another thing that I learned was your manipulatives that you had in your classroom. Your students are able to do manipulatives. I think this lesson they were working on the whiteboards, and we do whiteboards all the time because whiteboards are great. Whiteboards give us an opportunity as a teacher to just surface the classroom and say, hey, Emily doesn't have that right. Let me go over here and help Emily. Or, sometimes you rock it and say, all right, 1, 2, 3, show me. And everybody holds up their whiteboards. And that way you're able to say, okay, got it, got it, got it, got it. And so you're taking those mental notes. And so when you're pulling your students to do small groups, I'm able to see you say, you caught on to those 5 who might not have gotten it. And then you're doing that reviewing with them. And so, as I said, the video was really great, but it doesn't expose the whole teaching of who you are. So I just kind of want to highlight some of those things. Also, other things, manipulatives. I love the point of you all working on fractions and you showing them various different ways of creating manipulatives with fractions. Using a fraction bar or making their own fraction bars using construction papers, or how you could split things up and showing, hey, let's take all these pencils and let's break them down, and you show them all different ways of how fractions are used in everyday life. And so that makes the joy and the fun, and it makes the engagement more important with students when they can relate to what they're learning. And so you do a very good job of doing that in your classroom. um well, I'm thinking of one more thing before I kind of sort of turn it over to you. What was the other thing? Oh, one last thing. I love the fact that you make sure that you have those small teacher conferences with the kids, even while you're walking around, like, hey, how can I support you? Hey, what do you need with this? Hey, what do you do this? But you also give the kids their independence as well. So that's definitely a mixture of great teaching that's going to be very beneficial as you begin to grow more and more as a teacher. So I think that you did a really good job. And as I said, I'm always in your classroom, so I'm always able to see the things that you're doing. So I definitely give you a thumbs up on this.
Thank you. I just, sometimes I beat myself up over the video because I wasn't able to show like the assessment part. Like, okay, I know that this kid was struggling or these group of kids are struggling, but then we, roundabout come back to the kidney table and we try to like iron out any misconceptions they have.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think about like in my next video, how could I really highlight, if not small group, I think more partner assignments. And I also take into the fact that, the period that I teach math is almost a 2 hour period. So it may
Mhm.
be a little bit longer than my cohort.
Yeah.
I just, I'm just trying to zone in on like a lot of learning goes on in those learning partners. A
Mhm.
lot of learning goes on in small groups too, but it's just like I think I've been focusing heavily on those learning partners because I think I get the most bang for my buck in those learning
Yeah.
partners.
Mhm.
Small groups sometimes can be off task. Some small groups can sometimes, not accomplish what I set out for the goal that day, and I'm absolutely fine with that. But I also think like that partner work will allow for a higher level of attainment for the students that are emerging scholars,
Mhm.
and a deeper understanding of content for those scholars that may be gifted. So I have to figure out like how can I highlight that in my next video. But I really
So
appreciate
I
the
don't I
feedback
don't
you
know if you
gave.
ever got a chance to see me do this, but I'm the reading person, you're the math person. So in my reading, how I highlight that is that I do carousel learning. That means that the
Mhm.
students walk around and they start on a problem, or they start on a standard, or a question, and then they do a little bit of piece of that question, and they go to the next and they finish it all the way around. So it's like a sometimes they call it gallery walks or carousel walking, and then that way they're able to kind of sort of to show it of how they do it. And it's also partner in groups, so that group has to work on that problem, and then they might work on that bit of problem and then go to the next problem and finish it. That way it kind of sort of tells me, okay, you started this problem but you were able to finish it. And that way they're working in groups, and they're also learning from each other, which is a critical thing in making sure that the students learn and they've mastered it. So maybe just kind of sort of, I'll have to show you. I don't know if you've seen. Have you seen the carousel walking My
No,
kids do
I've
that
done
now. Mhm.
I used to teach read and I used to do carousel
Mhm.
walks a lot.
But I do it.
I
I did it for math. So I did it for math too, just to kind of sort of highlight. And the kids that way, I would be able to see like, okay, Tanika needs help with this, or Marquita has this, or Marquita needs help with this, and Tanika has mastered this. And so it's also taking some of those tools or strategies and methods that we learned as an ELA teacher and bringing them to math too, or taking those strategies that we learned from math or tools or methods and bringing them to reading, because all of them should coexist together.
Interesting. Carousel. Okay, I'm definitely add that to my repertoire. I never thought about using it for math.
Hmm.
Number one, just because of the space that we in, that classroom is so tight. Like, and then those fifth graders are so big. Like, even breaking up into small groups is no easy task. But the carousel walk, I like it because I'm just imagining it could be way cleaner. If I just manage that learning space a little better, it could be way cleaner, and then I have a lot more. So let me think about that. If I don't implement it in my next video, I'm definitely going to implement it next year, because
Hmm.
then I'll do it as a instead of doing just a regular maybe Kahoot, or I could probably do it as a I can do it as a interest ticket instead of, and then redo it as an exit ticket just to show how much they grow. And then I can also use that piece of paper as presentation on the board for student work. So that's actually a great idea. I really
Hmm.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
We only have one more video left. And then I know you have a little bit of things to do, but yeah, we only have one more video left. So just uh I'll see you in about a week.
Okay. Sounds great.